The phone buzzed at 3 in the afternoon. Blocked number, Los Angeles time. Quincy Jones hit accept. Q. That one syllable carried everything. Quincy had known Michael Jackson for 25 years, produced 3 of his biggest albums, spent thousands of hours in studios together. He knew every variation of that voice, the confident one from recording sessions, the playful one between takes, the exhausted one after long tours. And this wasn't one he'd heard before. This was something new, something that made him set down his coffee mug and close the door to his home studio. Michael. Quincy kept his tone level. How you holding up? 5 seconds of silence, then 10. Background noise bled through the line. Someone shouting, music playing, chaos. The organized sound of a major production in full swing. Then Michael laughed, but it was hollow, empty. The sound of someone going through motions because they'd forgotten what genuine joy felt like. It was the laugh of someone performing even in a phone call. I'm good, Q. Really good. Rehearsals are going great. The band's tight. Dancers are incredible. You should see what we're planning. Quincy closed his eyes. After decades in this business, he knew when someone was selling, and Michael was selling hard, selling to himself as much as to anyone else. That's great, man. But I'm asking how you are, not the show. You. The pause that followed felt heavier. Through the phone, Quincy heard it. The organized chaos of a major production. Michael was at the Staples Center, surrounded by 100 people, yet completely alone. I'm fine, Q. Just tired. You know how it is. Everything's got to be perfect. Michael. Quincy opened his eyes and stared at a framed photo on his wall from 1979. Michael at 21, grinning, eyes bright with possibility. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Fast, clipped, defensive. Quincy's chest tightened. No, you don't, he said quietly. You've already proven everything 3 times over. You changed music, changed culture. You don't owe anybody 50 shows in London. You don't understand. Michael's voice dropped, something else underneath now. Anger, desperation. They think I'm finished, think I can't do it anymore. Every tabloid, every critic, they're all waiting for me to fail. Wait, because this is the moment Quincy Jones realized something crucial. Michael Jackson wasn't planning a comeback tour. He was planning a resurrection, and resurrections required the kind of sacrifice that often took everything from the person attempting them. Michael, the people who love you don't need you to prove anything. I need to prove it to myself. Michael's voice cracked, and for a second, Quincy heard the kid he'd first met 30 years ago, the one who practiced until his feet bled, who sang until his voice gave out, who couldn't accept anything less than perfect. I need to know I can still do it, that I'm still me. Quincy felt something shift in his chest. He'd watched this kid transform from a talented performer into the biggest star on the planet, had seen what it cost. The isolation, the pressure, the way fame consumed everything human and left only the legend standing. You are you, Quincy said with conviction. Tour or no tour, you're Michael Jackson. That doesn't change. But what if I can't do it anymore? And there it was, the fear underneath everything. Not the fear of failure in front of 50,000 people, but the fear that the thing defining his entire existence was fading, that without the stage, without the lights, without the performance, there was nothing left. Michael's voice got quieter, almost a whisper. What if I get up there and everyone sees? What if they finally see that I'm not what they think I am? Through the phone, Quincy could hear it. The sound of someone who'd spent his entire life being extraordinary and had forgotten how to be just human. Someone who'd been performing since age 5 and didn't know who he was when the music stopped. You know what scares me most, Q? Michael's voice cracked. It's not forgetting the steps. It's not missing a note. It's that moment when I walk on stage and realize I don't remember why I love this anymore. I just know I have to do it, because it's all I have. The confession hung in the air between them. Quincy wanted to say 1,000 things. Wanted to tell Michael about all the artists he'd seen burn out, all the ones who'd pushed too hard and paid the price. But what came out was simpler. Michael, you don't have to prove you're still the best. You already did that 3 times over, but I have to prove it to myself. Michael, you're talking to a man who's 76 years old. I've had brain surgery, health scares, everything, and I've learned something important. Quincy paused. Your value as a human being isn't tied to what you can do on a stage. It's who you are when the lights go off. Silence stretched between them. Through the phone, Quincy could hear Michael breathing, shallow, uneven. But the lights are all I know, Q. The sentence came out, barely above a whisper, like admitting something he'd been carrying alone for years. Quincy felt tears at the corners of his eyes, blinked them back. Then maybe it's time to learn something new. Michael went quiet. In the background, someone called his name. His breathing changed. Faster, shallower. The sound of someone bracing themselves. I have to go. Rehearsals starting. Michael, wait. Thanks for the call, Q. Really. I needed to hear your voice. Michael, please, just think about what I said. You don't have to. I love you, Q. You know that, right? Everything we did together, everything you taught me, I'll never forget it. Something in his tone made Quincy pause. It felt different somehow, heavier than a casual conversation between old friends. I love you too, Mike, but promise me something. What's that? Promise me you'll take care of yourself. Really take care. Not just for the tour, for you. Michael laughed again, that same hollow sound. I promise, Q. I'll be fine. Michael, I really have to go. They're calling for me. Okay, but call me again soon, all right? I won't. I promise. The line went dead. Quincy sat there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Across the room, his assistant looked up, concern written across her face. Everything okay, Mr. Jones? Quincy set the phone down carefully, like it might break. I don't know, he said honestly. I really don't know. Notice something here. Quincy Jones had worked with volatile personalities, navigated tense sessions, produced the biggest albums in the world. He knew how to read people, and every instinct told him Michael was struggling in ways most people couldn't see. The thing was, Michael was surrounded by people, managers, dancers, musicians, doctors, trainers, security. Surely someone was watching out for him. Quincy tried calling, left messages, sent texts, nothing. Michael had gone radio silent. Over the next few weeks, Quincy thought about that call constantly. He'd wake at 2 in the morning, replaying the conversation. 6 months earlier, he'd seen Michael at a restaurant in Beverly Hills. Michael was alone in a corner booth. They talked for 20 minutes about old stories. Michael's hands had shaken, picking up his water glass. His eyes kept darting to the door. His laugh came out too loud. When Quincy asked how he was really doing, Michael's smile faltered for a second. I'm good, Q. Just busy. They hugged goodbye. Promised to get together soon. They never did. He kept his phone on him constantly, waiting for Michael to call again. The call never came. What came instead were news reports, footage of Michael at rehearsals, looking thinner than he'd been in years, moving through routines with the muscle memory of 4 decades on stage. The media machine was building massive hype for the This Is It tour. Ticket sales were astronomical. Fans were ecstatic. Behind the scenes, something else was happening. Michael was rehearsing 8, 10, 12 hours a day, pushing his 50-year-old body like it was still 21. The dancers were half his age and struggling to keep up with his demands for perfection. One more time, he'd say, after nailing a routine. It's not there yet. The crew watched him work himself to exhaustion, then come back the next day and do it again. Between takes, he'd sit alone in a corner, hunched over, breathing hard. Someone would bring him water. He'd wave them away. 5 minutes, he'd say. Then he'd be back up, counting off the beat, pushing through another run. The choreographer pulled him aside one day. "Michael, we got it. The routine's perfect. You can rest." Michael shook his head. "Perfect for you, not perfect for me." At night, he'd go home and watch the footage, making notes, circling mistakes no one else could see. The next morning, he'd come in with a list of changes. Everything looked perfect on the surface, but Quincy knew better. He'd spent enough time in studios watching artists push themselves to the breaking point. He recognized what Michael was doing, running from something by running towards something else, hoping the stage lights would be bright enough to drown out whatever was chasing him. He tried calling, left messages, sent texts. Nothing. Michael had gone radio silent, swallowed up by the machinery of a 50-show comeback tour. Remember this, because June 25th, 2009, started like any other day for Quincy Jones. He was in his home studio working on a project when his assistant burst in without knocking. Her face drained of color. "Turn on the news," she said, her voice shaking. Now, Quincy turned on the television and saw the words scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Michael Jackson rushed to hospital, cardiac arrest. Not breathing. The room seemed to tilt around him. Quincy gripped the armrest of his chair, knuckles going white. On screen, a reporter was talking, but Quincy couldn't hear the words, just a ringing in his ears that blocked out everything else. His assistant's hand touched his shoulder gently. "Mr. Jones, should I?" "No." His voice came out hoarse. "Just leave me." She left quietly, closing the door with a soft click. Quincy sat there alone, staring at the screen. They were showing footage, Michael rehearsing, dancing, smiling. He sat down heavily and waited. It came an hour later. Michael Jackson pronounced dead at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, 50 years old. The world erupted with grief. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. News anchors struggled to maintain composure as they reported the story. Fans gathered at UCLA, at Neverland, at the Apollo Theater. The magnitude of the loss was staggering, global, unprecedented, overwhelming. But for Quincy Jones, sitting in his studio surrounded by the ghosts of recording sessions past, the grief was deeply personal. He kept hearing Michael's voice from that phone call. "I need to prove it to myself. The lights are all I know. I promise, Q. I'll be fine." He'd tried. He'd said the things he thought were right. He'd offered love, support, wisdom, but it hadn't been enough, and he would carry that knowledge for the rest of his life. The funeral came and went. Quincy attended, standing with Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Berry Gordy, all shell-shocked. Michael's golden casket was carried past thousands of mourners. The crowd fell silent. Then someone started singing softly, and others joined until the sound swelled into something both beautiful and heartbreaking. Quincy stood there, dry-eyed. The grief was too big, too complicated, tangled with regret and the weight of having seen it coming. A reporter pushed through with a microphone. "Mr. Jones, what was Michael Jackson to you?" Quincy looked at the casket, then back. "Everything," he said quietly, his voice cracking, "and I tried my best." He turned and walked away. In the months that followed, Quincy gave interviews about Michael's genius, his contribution to music, the joy of working with him. He never mentioned that last phone call. It felt too private, too raw, but he thought about it constantly. Every time someone asked about Michael, every time he passed a radio playing one of those iconic tracks, every time he sat at his mixing console and remembered the countless hours they'd spent together chasing perfection, the years passed. Michael Jackson transformed from person into legend. The estate released posthumous albums. The musical opened on Broadway. The biopic went into production. In November 2024, Quincy Jones died, 91 years old, surrounded by family. In his private papers, his daughter found a journal. Most entries were technical. "Check the mix on track 4, call arranger." Then she found one dated June 26, 2009. the day after Michael died. I should have gotten on a plane. I should have shown up at that rehearsal. I heard it in his voice, and I let him go anyway. At the bottom, I'm sorry, Michael. She could see the water stains on that page. The last time Quincy spoke publicly about Michael was 2 months before his own death. The interviewer asked what he remembered most. Quincy thought for a long moment. His hunger, he said quietly. His absolute need to be perfect. Do you have any regrets? Quincy smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I wish he'd believed me when I told him he was enough, but he didn't. If you enjoyed spending this time here, I'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing. A simple like also helps more than you'd think. This is it. Tour never happened. The rehearsal footage became a documentary. But Michael Jackson never learned how to be anything other than legendary. It was his gift and his curse. Somewhere in Los Angeles, there's a studio where Quincy and Michael spent thousands of hours together. The equipment's been updated, the walls repainted. But if you listen close enough on a quiet afternoon, you can almost hear it. That conversation between two friends, one offering wisdom, the other not quite ready to accept it. The phone call lasted 11 minutes. 3 months later, the world lost Michael Jackson, and Quincy carried that conversation with him for 15 years. If there's another untold story from music history you'd like to hear, let me know in the comments.